Natalie here, and today I have volume 2 of Freshen Up, the series I have over on A Cherry on Top. And I have been procrastinating doing these photos. They're of my best friend at her wedding, and so, you know, those important photos. Sometimes we procrastinate those, but it's her birthday today, and was inspired to create this gorgeous page, and I love how it turned out, so I'm so glad I did it. So today we're focusing on manual dyes, and so that is what I'm using to create this page today. So I have this gorgeous Darcel collection from Prima that matches the wedding colors, which were like a deep purple color. Well, that was the color of her dress. And so what I'm doing here is I took a little plate and I'm cutting a circle out of this paper, of this pattern paper. And it has this gorgeous copper foil that kind of inspired the color choices as well. So I cut this out. And my idea is that I'm going to do a mixed media background on that bottom page. And then I'm going to pop up that pattern paper. So right now we're going to put the clear gesso, that's Finnabair clear gesso, I love it, on this cardstock, and I chose like a cream color. You're not really going to see it, but there was definitely not a true white with this Prima collection, so I did cream, and I applied the gesso and set it aside to dry. Then I have this gorgeous floral stamp from Pink Fresh Studio Celebrate collection. It's their collaboration with Altenew, and they make the most gorgeous florals. So using this Wow embossing powder in copper metallic to go with the foil that's on the beautiful Prima collection. And so there you can see the guide on the back of the Pink Fresh Studio stamp. And it tells you how to build the stamp. And so there you can see I played with this for a while. So if you get these layering stamps, I suggest just grabbing a piece of cardstock and playing around with it, because it takes a little practice in my opinion, layering and seeing what stamps layer well with other stamps. And that maroon color is a distress oxide, but sometimes the distress oxide didn't work well over the pigment ink or the dye ink. It just depends on what you're using. And so I'm using Catherine Pooler there on the bottom, and then I use the distress oxide on top, and then those are just little Altenew cube inks. I think those are dye inks as well. I hope I'm saying that right. I think pigment inks are the ones that take longer to dry, like the oxides, and that color box, I think is what it is right there, which it can be used for embossing as well, which is what I'm about to do. So I did the bottom floral and then the top layer and then the leaves, and so this is the outline. And so I used that pigment ink and it's copper glitter, and it doesn't show up really great, but I'm just using it to emboss, so the embossing powder covers everything up anyway. So I love my stamping platform because it's really great for these layering stamps that most of the time will require more than one stamp, especially like a larger stamp typically tends to do that. And so I did 2 different colors there. I did a dark eggplant over that as well. And of course, I'm going to let you see the most satisfying part, which is melting the embossing powder. That's like my favorite part of stamping. But it turned out so pretty. I love it's like a glittery embossing powder, and it just adds this sparkle that is subtle because it's just a thin line outline all around the ink, but look how good it matches. I was super happy with it. So now my gesso is dried, so I'm kind of getting an idea of where I need to put it. So I went ahead and I applied water all over the page, and I'm going to use mostly my powder inks, which I love. This is a color burst, I think it's called Indigo, and then I'll also pull out my brushos in Prussian blue and gray. And I just love the pixelated look, but I do tend to spread those out mostly with this layout. I just kind of douse it in water and do the spinny technique just to kind of get a wash over the whole background. But I do let the water pull up in different places so that it gets different dimensions of the color on the background. So I scraped it all around. I was hoping that kind of like would pull some of the pigments individually into the little grooves because it's a textured paper. But then I decide, you know, we're going to just totally do the color wash where you douse the background with water and let it swoosh all over the page. Do you like all of my very technical words that I'm using? So there are probably 20 or more examples on the Cherry on Top blog today of using dyes and using manual dyes and different ways that you can use them. Of course, you can also use electronic dyes this way, as well as like punches. But for many reasons that I indicate on the blog, manual die cuts are kind of my fave, to be honest with you. I do like a good cut file, but I fight with my electronic machine a lot, and I have problems with, is the mat sticky enough? Is the, the blade sharp enough? So we're going to set that background aside to dry. And now I don't typically show the die cutting that I do, but I'm going to show it today. So there you have the sorry about that. The die for the Celebrate Floral. And I just taped it down in a couple different spots and ran it through, and it cut so perfectly. Like, I promise you, I could not fussy cut that well. And maybe if you're a really great fussy cutter, you can, but this is why I love stamps that come with dies, because I'm not a great fussy cutter, and it just gives this clean look, and it's super fast. So now I'm showing you, I'm using those two really intricate floral dies to cut out from glitter cardstock, and they're just going to be layering bits. And I think that intricate florals are really good for this, as well as like a plate die that is typically used for like a card background. Those textured plate dies give really good intricate designs that you can cut up and just kind of use to stick out from behind die cuts and photos as a layering piece. Also, when you have those intricate dies, I highly recommend this little Sizzix tool. I would say I probably need to sharpen my die. I don't like to run my die through on this glitter paper more than once, because I do find that it will degrade the paper, and kind of the paper will rip a little bit. So I just prefer to sharpen my die. So I will do that the next time I try to do some of those intricate floral cuts, which you can do that just by running it through the machine a few times with some aluminum foil. I will sharpen up your dies. So now I'm using my favorite alpha die. It is double cut by Concord and Ninth. And it cuts this like block letter, but it also has an outline of the block letter. And then you can use either or both. And I just love that. So I'm using both, kind of. I am using the outline for the navy, which was the corresponding color with this Darcel collection, I'm sorry. And that's where I got the idea to do this blue background. I go for some splatter here, but actually when it dries, you can't even tell, but that's okay. But so I backed my glitter cardstock letters with that navy blue color. And what I'm doing here is there's random spots on the background. I'm using glossy accents, and I'm going to use those gilding flakes. Excuse me. And I'm just going to press them down on top of the glossy accents. You can also just use glue. And then when it dries, I'm going to like press it down even better, kind of burnish it, I think. Burnish it is the word, burnish. And kind of wipe it all off, and it will stick to the sticky part. And it will just look like this really cool feather of gilding that is run through the background. I was really happy with how it turned out, and I just happened to have the same copper color laying around, so I decided to add it on. And now I'm going to pop up my pattern paper with all this foam, adhesive foam. I put a lot on there because I wanted the entire page to pop up. And here we have it. There you go. I'm burnishing the gilding flakes off with a dry brush. It's a dry acrylic bristled brush. So I've pulled all the sticky off, and now I'm going to stick down the background paper. I'm so happy with how that turned out. And I know that my circle isn't perfect, but it's going to get mostly covered up by the photos and the die cuts. Also, I did off camera stitch around the circle and the edge of the page with an eggplant thread. So I've been figuring out how I want to lay my pieces down, and we're almost there, y'all. I'm going to do 2 florals at the top and a floral at the bottom, and then I will have to cut another glitter piece as a layering bit because all 3 of those die cuts need that, don't they? So that's kind of where I'm going with the page layout. And now I'm working on the letters, and I'm putting, that did take a little bit of time. I used my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, which is really fabulous. But to lay all the glitter on top of the background pieces did take time, but I do really like the contrast and how it pops up off the page in the background. So it was worth it, I think. So there, it's going to say lovely day, like the song, it's a lovely day for a white wedding, but it's a lovely day for a purple wedding because it was a purple wedding. So, oh, and then for I didn't cut out letters for those because I just wanted to stamp them. So I have those really cute stamps that I picked up in the Cherry on Top store. And I have these label dies from Tim Holtz from Sizzix that I also got in the Cherry on Top store. And I just pull out different sizes, and I pick a small size that will fit the words 4A. And I just use those tiny alphas to stamp the smaller, not as important words that I don't really need in my title to be like as large as all the other words. So I die cut this little bit out of another paper from the Darcel collection. And then I stamp it down with some Catherine Pooler, what's the word? Juniper Mist ink. It's like a navy blue color. And yeah, that worked perfectly. So I kind of just tucked that in amongst the glittered letters. And oh, I used a little bit of adhesive foam around 3 edges of the photo because I did want to put some hidden journaling in there. My page is really formal and really pretty, and so I didn't want any handwritten journaling to show. So I will just tuck that in behind the photo with a little tag at the top of the journaling so you can pull it out and read it. So now I'm just going to adhere everything down. And then once I get the title all down, I'm going to use a little, they're not really enamel. They're like this plasticky feel, but it's also from the Darcel collection. And it's these gorgeous little enamel stickers. They're not enamel. I don't know the right word, but there's butterflies and hearts and dots. And so I just sprinkle those around the page. And that's my finishing touch. I did add a few copper hearts off the screen as well. So I really thank you guys for watching and sticking with me on this longer video today. I hope that you will pop over to the Cherry on Top blog. I've linked it down below, and see all the examples that I put on the blog about using your manual die cuts. And I hope you're inspired. I would love to see what you make. Please tag me on the socials if you make something that you were inspired to make from the blog post. And thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.